Greetings and good vibes, everybody. Welcome back. We are here with a special webisode today, joined by a guest and friend to the Leon Block Independent Media. We've got Randy Miller here with us today. Thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate the love.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much,
And,
Chantel.
and you're out of Manchester, PA. Is that correct?
Manchester, Maryland.
Manchester. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Were you born and raised there?
Yes. I was actually born in
Awesome.
Westminster, which is right down the road.
Got you. So today we're going to be talking about this corporation, Drill Tech Drilling and Shoring Incorporated, and what they've been doing in your municipality. Am I correct?
Yup. They're actually a company based out of California, but they're pretty widespread. I guess before I really get into the details about them and what's going on, do you mind if I say a little bit about myself?
Of course. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, so just to give a little context, like we were talking about earlier, people like it's kind of like planned that people are always exhausted and like there's a purpose behind that in the kind of society we live in. And that's first that's primarily that's what I feel like a lot of each day because I work full time for a company that doesn't necessarily appreciate us. But then I also try to help out with some organizations such as STAR, Stay True and
Right.
Revolt, and then also Coalition Against Prejudice. And I help out with a lot of like activity in like directly here in Manchester as well. Um, and one of those things, there is a nature center in the area that is based out of Pine Valley Park here in Manchester, and I'm on the board with them. I started volunteering about 2 years ago. Well, more than that, it was really like a little after when COVID started. So whenever that was, it's all a blur now. But I ended up, just
Mhm.
wanting to help the environment. So I went to them. I decided to kind of like volunteer for different efforts there. Then I was voted in as secretary, and then I became main chair of the stewardship committee as well. So, and it's all in efforts just to be like, to protect the environment and to help with any sort of efforts uh, involving environmental health. So, if I wasn't a part of that nature center, I probably wouldn't really have heard about this because it's been so like hush hush and under the
Right.
radar. So around a couple years back, one of our volunteers, he has a bachelor's in environmental planning. And he had just spoke in general about how Drill Tech was proposing to build on 3411 Hanover Pike or nearby. Now, technically, it's in Manchester, but it's technically owned by the county, so it
Mhm.
gets a little confusing. Um, it seems like there's nothing about this that isn't a little confusing. Um, so then on September 14th last year, I received a forwarded email from my friend who volunteers for the Nature Center and also uh, lives right there. He's a neighbor, technically. And he had sent an agenda from the Carroll County Commissioner's office telling about a public meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Carroll County, and that it was to be held on September 20th, which had occurred already. And
Mhm.
included a concept site um, plan proposal of a Drill Tech industrial vehicle maintenance facility. Now, if you want to like comment on anything, just like interrupt me because I'm just like kind of spieling off of something that I had planned last night. Um,
Well,
so
no,
feel
you're
free to
good. So
interrupt
what I want to
at any
equate
point.
real quick to, yeah,
Yeah.
there was this I can't remember what news um source. It was, I want to say it was like Vox or Vice or one of those, because they're really awesome and they do great coverage.
Oh,
But it
Vice,
was
yeah.
a town in I want to say Mississippi that decided to put a facility that gets rid of uh fireworks and different kinds of fireworks. They I guess dismantle them or dispose of them in some kind of way. They set them off and then they dispose of them. They burn them or whatever. And
Huh.
originally there was a upper class, predominantly white town that said, "Oh no, not in my backyard." So they went to a poorer community, which of course is more people of color, but is still there's still tons of poor white people as well. And they had no clue that this place was going to get built in their backyard until it was there. And you hear these loud booms all the time. The
Oh my
pollution has
gosh.
been ridiculous, and people are the rates of asthma and respiratory issues have skyrocketed. And this is just one town of many in America that deal with these kinds of issues.
Right.
And I just wanted to speak to that because that's the image that I right now have in my head when I hear you start to talk about this story. That's automatically where my head goes. So I just wanted to bring that up really quick. That's in,
Yeah.
it was Mississippi, but this is right in my backyard, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. And I can imagine with a facility or whatever that entails, it would mean like chemicals and effluents leaching into
Right.
whatever environmental systems. And it's hard not to feel incredibly like having an emotional reaction to that. I think about like Flint, Michigan, and things
Right.
that should never be. That's criminal, and people aren't paying the price for exposing people to this sort of stuff, and then to
Mhm.
sneak it in a way that they can't even really battle.
Yes. You go to these council meetings, and it's usually after the fact, after they've already made some kind of backdoor deal with the city councilors or the mayor, or they've padded their pockets in some sense, or they make it really really good economically as to how it will grow the economy of the community. And it's the deal is sealed, and usually by the time residents do get to have a say and show up to these meetings, usually the mind is already made up in the eyes of the commissioners. And this is something that happens time and time again, and it's why it is so important. I'm not, again, I'm not someone that's Democrat or Republican, but I am someone
Me
that
neither.
is a big supporter of local politics and getting involved in your local community to make sure you know what's going on and staying as informed as possible. Because I'm glad that you at least are informed about it now, because it does make a difference
Yeah,
as
and
opposed
it
to
was.
not knowing,
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say? Sorry.
not knowing at all. At least you know now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think it's to be on guard is the trick, not to like know everything all the time, because I knew like
Right.
nothing going into this. But I knew that there were several environmental and just like commons areas that were sensitive in this area. They even in the planning and zoning meeting, they referred to this area as a hotspot. So they already knew that was like it needed to like it required special care. Um,
So let's
so
back up
it's
real quick,
frustrating.
and I want to
Yeah.
ask. So this plant, this company decided to buy property, and build on, partially at least, in the municipality of Manchester. So what is it that they do, and how do they harm the environment? Let me start with that.
Sure. So, and I'll try to be as informative as possible. So Drill Tech, they're proposing the addition of an industrial vehicle maintenance facility, which would require the use of a water treatment facility because they
Mm,
will be using like lubricants, caustic materials,
right.
gasoline, oil, and on like an impervious surface. So we really worry about,
Oh,
yeah, runoff. It's on a hill too. It's on this massive hill that on the back side of it, it leads down into a tree line, and that's where all of like the sensitive areas begin. There's a pond there. The site's location is at, and they did before when I first heard about it, they had kind of like, I was told that they had backed off from the idea, and then all of a sudden, a little sign shows up that you can't even read from driving past it, and I get
Wow.
this. I'm so grateful for the person who is a neighbor of the nature center who had forwarded me the plans, because he had told me that this was now a go apparently, and we had just a totally different idea. We thought that they had backed off completely. But then after I got that, I started to learn a little bit more about it. And then that location I had mentioned earlier, that is the site for it. The proposed site now, which is 3411 Hanover Pike, Manchester, Maryland. And as I said, it is county property, and it was purchased by Drill Tech for $580,000. And although it's strange too, because although this area was even deemed or recognized as a hotspot by planning and zoning, it's still not getting like the kind of like, I think, concern that it needs, and basically due to its proximity to sensitive areas. And it's strange because this area before, I guess at the time that they had purchased it, was zoned as light industrial, which makes no sense to me. How can it be like a hot zone plus light industrial?
Right.
But
unless that was a classification that was never taken away.
Oh, you mean as these environmental sites popped up over the years?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it has been zoned.
And that's a loophole that they're probably banking on.
That's a good question.
To justify why they want that spot, you know?
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, which is fucked up. But we already know that these kind of big corporations, not only do they strong arm with their money and politics, but they also strong arm via loopholes in local charters and laws and things.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. It's really a concern. I mean, the fact that they probably thrive off of just realizing that there's certain things that aren't regulation, but they know they're not going to get any like kick or, no one butting heads with them over it.
Yep.
But I really want to stress to people that it's just the absurdity of it being like light industrial around certain sensitive areas, which are, there's 2 schools nearby. The area where the vehicles would be leaving, like exiting and leaving, that work area is already high traffic. I'm not sure if you're aware of the area, but it actually leads, like where I live is probably like 5 minutes away from PA, the PA line.
Right.
And if you're at the Sheets in Manchester, which that's another thing. Like, people didn't learn from the Sheets thing because they had issues with their like water stuff where it had leached into the system. And since they're like an unstoppably like large, as far as like what do you call it, like monetarily a company, it's like they just build in like lawsuits and fines into their overhead. So this is what that's how bloated this company is too. And they can just afford to like ignore policies, do things without permits, which is what they've been doing. And the best thing to do is to stop it before it happens. Because once it happens, they can afford any financial, whatever you call that, like repercussions, I suppose. But so sorry, I'm getting so I guess sidetracked, but it's okay. All this is really important, and I really hope I can really stress in a really understandable way, like why this is just very wrong, and it shouldn't even be considered just my opinion. But this is like to me, it seems like an unstoppable force that's only stoppable when it's prevented from happening. So, like I said, there are two schools nearby. There's like a very high traffic area that it's going to be made worse if this is able to be built. Plus, there's several wildlife habitats in the area. There's a protected Trout Unlimited stream, which is a tributary of the Gunpowder River, which supplies drinking water for our town, plus Baltimore County. And then also, yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much that this could possibly affect everything if something terrible would go wrong, like during high water days and stuff like that, like high rain levels and things like that. But there's like wildlife habitats, including like eastern bluebirds, and even certain like I believe bog turtles, and then other specific species. And they're all found in like Pine Valley Park and other adjacent areas as well. And so the Pine Valley Park, they're home to several wells that are the primary water source for the town of Manchester.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get into.
It's crazy.
Was discussion about wells, because my grandparents, they had a property in Chester County for 40 years, and over the course of those 40 years, they have an older development, and they've witnessed over the past 40 years suburban sprawl from Philadelphia and tons of developments being built literally all around them, and they've always had a well. Everyone in their neighborhood has always had a well, and over the years the water quality has declined or dried up due to all of the development in and around the area. And that is just from mostly residential places. But think about that and how much that can change your well compared to how a major corporation that's industry is based off of harming the environment can actually change the way that you consume water on a personal basis. And people don't think about it too much until it happens personally to them in their own home, when their water comes out brown, or when there's oil in their water and it's flammable, or when they get no water at all. Then they want to band together with other neighbors. You should be banding together with your neighbors now when you hear about things like this, because the more that people see this, the next town over, it won't happen to them either. And the next town over, so these corporations will stand up, will know that other towns, they can't just prey on an unsuspecting town that is oblivious to things, because that's what they're counting on. That's what they want. Those are the places they go to, are the people that they know can't fight back, and places that they can take advantage of geographically as well. And so it's important that we have things like this, where we have discussions, where we talk about and do our due diligence to inform the public of what is going on in our backyard, so that they can take the proper steps to band with their neighbors and their community members and their quote unquote leaders to get something done, to take a stance, to build a wall, and to come up with solutions proactively, so that this doesn't happen not only in our backyard, but someone else's as well. It's not just about saving our own asses. It's about this is all our world. We all have to live on this planet. And just
making an
it's
example.
not happening in your specific backyard. Exactly, because it'll happen somewhere else. We have to stand up to these corporations, period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a chance, and I don't believe this now, but when I first started really like researching it, I gave them the benefit of a doubt that maybe and it's okay to be careful. I was never going to back off, because the potential for really caustic behaviors was there. So I ended up, but still, I was living like a dual thing there, where I was able to want to protect just in case something was happen. Also, giving them the benefit of a doubt that maybe they are, given the type of, doing like drilling and like building foundations and stuff like that. That's not where my I don't agree with those sort of things. So, but maybe there would be a way for them to explain it. But the thing is, when they started, there's just two simple things to this equation, where one, you have sensitive areas, and then two, you have regulations. Now, I understand that some companies thrive off of just like pushing the line when it comes to rules and regulations, but when it comes to environmental areas and places that involve drinking water and stuff like that, as soon as there is one violation, like violated, that should be it. And I feel like, say they were like this golden company and they're amazing, it's still our job to be watchdogs. It's our job to follow the process until we know for a fact that it's safe now. And thankfully, we didn't back off, because now we're realizing just their behaviors. This is all foreshadowing. Stuff has happened, things have happened like in the past with sheets that detrimentally affected drinking water and like other environmental factors. And
Yep.
for them, it's not fair for anyone who, in nature either, to sit back and say, well, let's look back. Like, say where there's a disaster that happened, and we're looking back in the past to this moment, where we can say that in the past we had raised these issues. There were instances that they were not following guidelines, and we had the moment to prevent it, and we didn't. That's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Did I lose you there? Sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Right.
Can you hear me okay?
No, I do, and it's just good to rant sometimes.
Yeah.
No, I'm still here. I think it's a bit of a slow connection, but I can hear you.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you good now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I think it's a little spotty on my end, but you're good.
It could be me too, because I've had issues with the connections here with Wi-Fi and stuff.
Awesome.
Even though I'm right in the middle of town, it's
I think it's all good. Look, this is what happens with independent media. You'll get some technical issues here and there. However, it for me, it's not about the quality of the presenting. It's the content.
oh yeah.
And so this is a topic that still needs to be talked about, nonetheless. So we'll still work with it. So for me, I guess I have I know for me how much this means to me. What does this mean for you, for someone that lives in a community? What do you want to see as far as like your fellow community members? What would you like help with informing the rest of your community about what needs to be done or what could be done?
Well, I want people to be able to have like a deciding factor. I feel like people, even though these meetings, like the commissioners meeting or the zoning and planning was a public meeting, I still just feel like a lot of what's being said on like the opposing viewpoints, it's just a formality, because I'm sitting there, me and another volunteer were discussing counterpoints for the reasons that we think it's a bad idea to build here. And Drill Tech themselves said like almost nothing at all. And there was no, I felt like there was this sense that they were just unstoppable and there's nothing we can do and they don't have to waste their energy trying to fight it. And I did want to, is it okay if I mention a few little details about like the process that had happened too?
Of course.
So at the very beginning, so this meeting had occurred. It was only a proposal meeting, and at that point, only until very recently had it changed from being a concept to something more than that. And back then, when it was still considered by the Carroll County Commissioners to be in the concept phase, they had already begun installing an unapproved office building at the time when the site proposal was still considered to be, at, like I said, a concept. And according to, and this is according, that term was being used by the Development Review of Carroll County, meaning that no construction had been approved at that point. And to install that office building, digging and grading had to occur, which also was not authorized by Soil Conservation District. So at that point, the company didn't even have permits for neither the office nor the grading that had occurred. And then 2 stop work orders had been issued, one from permits or permitting, and then the other from the Soil Conservation District itself. And then even though the digging and grading were not permitted, since it had already occurred, sediment control then stepped in and said, look, and they might have, I'm assuming that these connections would have been made without me, but it's hard to tell. And the impression I get from some of these representatives is that it's not their responsibility to communicate these detrimental like things that are happening, which is very concerning. Which is another reason why community really needs to step up. But they had ordered them to seed and mulch before the colder season had occurred, which we're in now. And since it's now well into winter and it was too cold to seed, and that was to prevent erosion from the built up earth that they use when they grade it. But sediment control then required them to at least put down straw, and they had given them a little while. And since then, Drill Tech had been putting this requirement off for some time, and then sediment control gave them until January 4th to complete the task, and they had only completed it a little bit before, like a few days before that due date. And before then, sediment control was already had their antennas up, and we're thinking we might be having to take them to county court over this. But so there's just so many red flags with this. And before I had kind of switched my viewpoint from, okay, let's see how this goes, to, okay, I'm just against this. We had created a campaign letter, which I think you had shared, you're sharing now, I believe, or had before.
Yes.
And if anyone has questions about that or wants to get more involved, please let me know. But what I really want to happen, I guess, is that for people to have more of a say, and for once something has been proposed, I still think there should be like means of preventing or stopping a company from continuing their operations even after this whole thing has been approved. Because it's just, I don't know, what do you do after that point? So we did send in November that campaign letter to the Carroll County Commissioner's office. It even got published in Northern News, and which I believe supplies like our area, plus I think even like Pennsylvania. I'm not entirely sure. But then I had reached out to Carroll County Times as well. Trout Unlimited had really put an effort in trying to reach out to the commissioners, and they had proposed several ideas which they weren't received well. And that concerns me too, because I thought they were going to be like our silver bullet in this thing. But then here's another like idea of like, as far as like government officials, and how you would hope that the protectors of the towns themselves would just have more of a, I don't know, like being a little more proactive. But
Yeah.
they had raised concerns, but then just backed off. And then when I had, because since I am part of the board of the Nature Center, we do have a town liaison. And I'm a little iffy about talking about this, but you know what? I didn't do anything. It was, I shouldn't have to feel any sort of unease. But we had proposed the letter to them, and we wanted their blessing so that we could kind of address it from the Nature Center. And they were vehemently against it.
Wow.
So to the point where this liaison, and you know how someone will say like, you do that and I'll kick your ass. Like they don't necessarily mean that verbatim, but there's something to be said about, it feels like a threat,
Right. Yeah.
And they had talked to me specifically on the phone, so I don't even have record of it. In that kind of like a,
wow,
kind of like a gaslighting way. So it did not receive support well. And on Facebook, I did get some signatures. We had a total of about 30 when we finally were able to send it in. Then I was also making it available, like I was hand delivering it to businesses and people who wanted to add their signature to it. It included a signature page with a blank, lower half. So I didn't have to worry about people seeing other people's information. So they were, people I think had been funneling in a few extra letters after that as well. But now I feel like I'm kind of hitting a wall where I'm like, I really need more help from like people who are just more like knowledgeable
like
about
you.
this stuff than I am. Well, and that are concerned like me too.
Right.
Because I feel like this is a no-brainer. This is a sensitive area. They're already effing it up by not following, not the area themselves yet, but like technically, because they're not even like adhering to rules involving like sediment control and like preventing erosion.
Right. Right.
To me, that's it. They have, lost their credibility at this point.
They've shown their intentions with how they're going to treat the land and the residents. Nothing else needs to be shown or explained. There needs to be some kind of proactive action to put a clamp on this before it gets any worse. So reaching out nationally is extremely important to get this information out, so as many people can be informed about this to help y'all as possible. So
Hell
for
yeah.
anyone watching or for anyone that will see this, what would you like to say directly to people?
Anything that, because like I said, I kind of went into this, like I tucked and rolled, and I'm trying to adapt and learn as much as I can in a short amount of time.
Right.
But I in matters like this, we all need help, and I need help to better find outlets that can really make maybe more of an impact. Although I'm all about grassroots and stuff, and technically it would still be that, but I think I need more people to get involved. And also I really want people to know that I'm not sure when it's going to be, but I think it will be at least a few more weeks till I get, the sporadic email, because I am on the waiting list for the Board of Commissioners zoning and planning meeting that is to include the decision on this, even though they've already done stuff. But I really want as many people to be there as possible. And if people want to follow me, like on Facebook, my name is Randy Miller. If you can just find me on that, I'm pretty sure it will say Town of Manchester, and it mentions the Nature Center. Like, it'll be pretty obvious if you see my name and then the stuff that I'm involved with
Let's
right
get
on
some
there as well.
graphics made. Let's get some graphics made, and we can share it out on all
Nice.
our platforms. And I'm sure Stay True and Revolt will do the same.
Yeah.
And we can also tailor make it, because I know a bunch of people down and around that area as well, and we can get them to share it out too,
Sweet.
to get that venue packed, because that definitely is important. Even
Yeah.
if people aren't able to physically attend, just the awareness of knowing helps as well, because it kind of intimidates those people into, they know that people are watching, or
Yeah.
being aware of it, they act better.
Yeah, and I should hope that they would know that if they're like supporting, like when I'm talking about them, I mean like commissioners, if the Carroll County commissioners, if they are going to support something like this that is already proved to fly in the face of regulations and human
Right.
rights and nature rights, that who in their right mind would want to vote them in again?
Be surprised.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would. But I did want to add real quick that, so on these platforms, I definitely want to, I just want people to kind of keep an ear out, because I will post the date for the meeting on there, and it is open to the public. So anyone who wants to, please join. And they even had last time, and I suspect it'll be the same case, they had an option, much as a lot of things are after COVID, that you can actually take part in it in the questions section of it via
Awesome.
like Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so if you post a link, people will be able to show up even if they're not physically there. So that's awesome. Yes.
So I'm not sure how I will be able to make that available, but I'm sure it'll be something, because even if it's the website where the link is available through Carroll County government, at the very least, I'm sure I'll be posting that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Let us know. Send us the information, and we'll make sure we get it out as well. And we'll make some
Thank you
graphics
so
for you.
much.
Just send us some information, and we got you.
I really appreciate that.
No doubt. That's what we're here for. So before we wrap up, is there any last bits of information you feel the public should definitely know about, or need to know, or how we can find you, or any more information about Drill Tech and this situation?
I mean, just Facebook in general. I mean, if you want to private message me too, that would be great. I try to be active on some of the like the organizations that I try to help out with too, like Stay True and Revolt. So if you put something like on there and tag my name with it, I'll see it. And then, I mean, can I throw out my email address? Is that okay?
Sure.
So my email is all lowercase. It's RRMILLER. So rrmiller82@gmail.com.
Awesome.
And please, please, I hope no one feels like they have to hesitate to reach out to me. I feel like this is kind of 0 hour right now. And one final thought, I suppose, would be, with the way the system is, once these companies have taken root, it's like almost impossible to get them out, it seems. So even if they're doing something totally criminal, like in Flint, Michigan, like, it's unbelievable. So right now is the best time for us to pool our resources and to really show that we are, we're watchdogs here, and we're not going to just be passive.
Agreed. All right, y'all. Well, this is Randy Miller, representing Stay True and Revolt. and Manchester, Maryland, and this has been a situation concerning Drill Tech and just environmental catastrophe possibly happening if we don't stand up to these powers that are sucking up resources and damaging the environment, leaving devastation in their wake. This is a situation that can harm the water, harm the land, the environment, animals, and us as well. If we don't stand up to it, they could be putting a waste management facility in there, which could harm the water. It could be the site is sitting on a hill, which, as you know, water travels down. Obviously, um, there's a lot of different variables that point to how bad an idea this is, and it's almost as if this the people that are in charge of this community are just almost just stepping aside and allowing this to happen. So while we still have this small window, we want people to step up and reach out and show support as much as you can. You can reach out to Randy at rrmiller82@gmail.com. His Facebook profile is also here in the comments, as well as Drill Tech's page, so you can check out their website and see what they're all about. And I did share that letter that you sent to the commissioners. However, it's only available to your friends. So if you choose to make it public, people will be able to see it too. That's up to your choosing, Randy.
Yeah.
But I did put the link in the comments so that people can see it. Facebook and YouTube, whoever is watching via Facebook and YouTube, it's in the comments. And we will share via Twitter and LinkedIn as well. And here is his Facebook page so that you can check out what his Facebook page looks like.
That's it.
Yes. And again, thank you, Randy, so much for informing everyone on what's going on in your neck of the woods, because this is very important. This could be happening, maybe, or already has happened in your neck of the woods. And this hopefully will awaken you to take charge and matters into your own hands in your own community if you are not in Randy's vicinity. So again, thank you so much, Randy, for joining us.
Thank you, John.
Any last thoughts?
I'll change those permissions on Facebook so it's available to more people, that letter, and then I'll keep an eye out for any anyone reaching out.
Awesome sauce. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a good day, and I've really enjoyed talking with you. And everyone have a blessed one.
Absolutely. Thank you.